I think you need to go by the demand of his position in the highest thing. So if it's the off season and he's not throwing, bench press him, right? He's not throwing. He took 6 weeks off from throwing. The shoulder joint itself works in 270 degrees, man. It moves in a 270 degree of circumduction on purpose, right? So do you load the shoulder or do you strengthen it through 270 degrees? The answer is you do both, depending on where you're at in your season and if he's throwing or not.
Wow. Yeah, I've read some stuff, and mostly what I've come across is maintain just a 2-to-1 pull to push ratio or 3-to-1.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
A couple of years ago when we used to do benching as one of our tests in college, we had guys that had anterior shoulder pain all the time. Now, I don't know if that was because of the benching or if it was because of the ratio of the workload. And I'm sure if you pay close enough attention to the ratio of push to pull, you can do it healthily. And also, when you're internally rotating over and over and over again at the shoulder when you're throwing, that obviously provides a lot of stress to the pec. And the anterior shoulder and the lat itself too.
Yeah, man. Your lat itself is going to be your strongest shoulder flexor. And as a baseball athlete specifically, you're doing constant internal rotation. And this is Eric Cressy 101. So if you're going to do tons of internal rotation constantly, why are you going to train internal rotation? You create muscle imbalance, right? So then you would train, external rotation to balance it out. A balanced athlete is a healthy athlete. If he's healthy, then you have done your first job as a strength coach. That's why I said it's got to be the mentality. Yes. But go ahead. I'll stop there. I've got a whole philosophy on overhead athletes. But go ahead.
I appreciate it. So I wrote down some other questions for you, and we're talking about program development, what's right, what's wrong, and the timing of all this. So I want to ask you a question. I read that you were able to decrease injury rates by 73% over a 2.5-year period at UNCW, which I thought was incredible.
Yep.
I want to know how you made this possible and the underlying thought processes that you brought to the programming other than perfecting exercise technique. So you want to dive into that for a little bit?
Absolutely. When I came in as a strength coach there, they had, and I'm not knocking this, just saying what happened. They had a football strength coach, historically football, come in. So it's a lot of pressing. And I played professional rugby. So, I have a little bit different mentality. Same thing would happen if I went to a football weight room. I don't know it as well as somebody that played rugby or football. I played rugby. So what you're looking at, and you can never avoid contact injuries. It happens, man, especially in a high contact sport. But what you can cut out is non-contact injuries. ACL tears on maybe it'll be a jump cut or it'll be, a dummy pass or a dummy switch. Something that's a high velocity turn, you can avoid those. So I came in, and just like you were talking about, the athletes were doing a lot of pressing movements. There's nothing wrong with that. They're doing pressing movements year round. Now, you already identified the 2-to-1 ratio, and I'm all about that, man. If you can get it more, even higher, that's great, man. How many of your athletes that you work with can do 20 pull-ups? That's so hard, man. I have female athletes, female swimmers. I had 3 of them that did over 20 pull-ups when I max tested their pull-ups when we were on testing week. Female athletes, female high school athletes, all right? So the whole point here is, yes, do your pressing. Yes, layer down your strength. But allow me to give you my philosophy of the chest and shoulder complex when it comes to impact sports, and it delves over into overhead athletes. So the chest itself plays a very small role in sport movements. This is where your sport specificity construct can live. And again, I touched on increasing tangential velocity, and I touched on posterior chain kinematics. Sprinkle all those into this answer. What I did is I took those athletes, implemented the 2-to-1, right? I also implemented regen days. I got a cold tub brought in. I got contrast therapy involved. I got days where I introduced active recovery. They weren't active, and they were not doing deload weeks. That's a huge impact to begin with. Before we talk about form, before we talk about exercise selection, changing the atmosphere in which they train. Then I also used the chest now that was a pressing focus to a balance focus. And this delves over into swimmers, lacrosse, baseball. The chest no longer is a strength piece. The strength is a balance piece. And we already talked about it. If you can balance an athlete, right, and there's certain planes that and percentages that I've got that I go by for my assessment tools, the chest is no longer a strength piece, it's a balance piece, all right? If the chest is now more flexible, more mobile, more stable, the shoulder is no longer anteriorly rotated. Now, one of the biggest things you're going to see in rugby, man, is AC joint separations. You're going to see a lot of shoulder injuries because it's the nature of the game. In fact, in rugby, you're not supposed to football tackle. It's not advantageous to possession of the ball. You're supposed to do more of a chest-to-chest turn and roll so that you can put the ball on your attacking side so that they can poach the ball and take it. So it saves your shoulders. So sprinkle all that in. I brought in alligator rolls. I was also one of the skills coaches too. I worked with the backs, but I brought in alligator rolls. So in rugby, when you get tackled, you go down. There's a thing called a ruck. One guy's coming over top of you to protect you. The other guy's contesting you. Other guy's trying to take it, and you're boom, 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 shoulder, shoulder, shoulder breakups. I introduced an alligator roll. It's similar to a wrestling move where you bring your arm over top and under the shoulder, and you roll them out, pulling them out of position. Again, gaining advantage for ball taking, saving shoulders. Dude, I'm pretty sure I read where, I'm going to butcher this, but it was in England. I read research where they stopped tackling in practice. They did their form work, but they stopped live tackling and injury rates dropped. So I introduced that a bit, but they were young kids and a lot of them were new to it, so we started to work on it. I also brought in offloads. That's a big thing that, again, as you're going down in rugby, if you can control the tackle coming in, you pass the ball off to your mate that's running, he takes off and you go. So that's all the skill side. Now, they weren't doing essentially arm care. They didn't have an arm care program, and they're doing tons of pressing. That's an easy fix. Came in, so I saved their shoulders. I started doing like triplanar addressing the body. I looked at it as a triplanar 360-degree entity. So just doing 1 day's worth of arm care is not going to help you if you have, ACL issues or menisci issues or ankle issues. I started to introduce a ton of ankle work, ankle mobility work. As a runner, the Achilles itself is very, very, very stiff, very stiff. So that means you're going to have a transient increase in power output, and that's awesome, man. But if it's too stiff and you're not getting correct, whatever it might be, triple extension to your running, and there's a lot of plant and cutting and a lot of stuff like that, if your ankle isn't mobile, you're going to be in trouble. I crushed their hips with mobility because essentially your mobility work starts from the ground up. And if there's any break in that chain, in your kinetic chain, any one of those links is broken, it may not be the knee that goes. It might be the shoulder. Something will break. So I address it as a 360-degree entity. Tons of mobility, tons of stability work, ankle stability, shoulder stability, arm care program, took away the chest as a pressing focus, and you should have seen how mad they were. All they want to do is bench press. They're 19-year-old kids, you know what I mean? So then I used the chest as a balance point, opening up the shoulders, increasing with all the rest of my mobility. On top of all that, the 2-to-1 ratio for the pull to push is ideal. Now, focus on the back as a strength portion. You have now begun to develop posterior chain kinematics. By increasing the posterior chain kinematics, the back, the glutes, the hamstrings, you increase that tangential velocity or the ability to run faster. And on top of all of that, I completely adjusted their squat protocol systems. Back squat, back squat, back squat, back squat, all the time. And now this is where you can sprinkle in your form changes because clearly if they're squatting shallow, it's maximal ACL loading. If they're doing all that, I adjusted, took away all their weights. You should have seen how mad they were. I had a kid, wrestling background, fearless, painless, collegiate All-American, 2 years in a row. He was furious. He could squat 405, but he looked like an idiot, right? I can squat 700 right now if I only go down 2 inches. I made him start over at 205. So that's your form change. Also, I shifted anterior focus to posterior development. Tons of glutes, tons of hamstrings, tons of things to balance out all of these kids that are quad dominant. So now I've created I've shifted the balance from quad dominance to a posterior chain development. I've taken away their pressing, so their chest is no longer a strength piece, it's a balance piece, which opened up the shoulders. I added a ton of regen protocol, a ton of mobility. Every kid had to come in and sign in and do his mobility day. I had it every Wednesday, right? We play on Saturday, but we don't even practice Friday. So the option of Wednesday or Friday. And then with all that as an amalgamation of a strength protocol, it dropped their injuries like a brick. It was awesome. I had 0 non-contact injuries in 2 years. And in rugby, there's 7 seasons, man. It's unreal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So all those things I just told you is something you should take with you, especially in the collegiate setting, because you're going to start to identify these. You're like, oh my God. I never took away the squat. Don't get me wrong. I never took away the front squat and I never took away their cleans. But it's quality over quantity forever and always. It doesn't matter how much you can clean if you look like a jerk. If you can do a perfect rep, every rep perfectly, then there you go.
Yep.
I had this stupid little saying on the wall that I put up is, everybody says practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually the saying was, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. No human can do that. Practice makes permanent. So every rep counts.
Yeah. It sounds like you're placing a heavy emphasis on moving correctly, which I really appreciate and I agree with. I've always believed what good is lifting that amount of weight if you can't do it right?
100%.
And one thing that I've actually learned, one of the craziest things that I've learned at TCU so far, I've never seen such a heavy emphasis on ankles in my life.
Unreal, bro.
And it's amazing that I've missed out on this so much. I worked with a trainer over the course of the last year. I won't mention his name, but part of our movement screening, I had to do an overhead squat. And as you may see in a lot of athletes, my upper body, my trunk was collapsing over my front side. So he concluded, okay, this is a trunk stability issue. We're going to hammer your core. You're going to do bird dog rows. You're going to do, front plank, single arm rows, a lot of full body core. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. A couple weeks ago. And this movement had not improved in the slightest bit. So I'm in here training for the first day with one of the coaches at the facility at TCU. And he's seeing me do my monthly screen, or I did it every 3 months actually. And I finished up and I said to him, my front squat needs some work. He goes, here, take these 5-pound plates and put them under your heels.
Yep. And now you can squat.
Did it to do the cleanest squat I've done in a year. And I'm like, wow, like what the heck is going on? And he goes, you got some ankle problems. And then he set me up 4 inches away from the wall. He goes, can you touch your knee to the wall? I was like 3 inches away from the wall.
That's part of, every athlete that comes under my care gets a full-on assessment that I like to have my tools. And that ankle wall test is one of them that I do.
Yeah. And, since then I've been hitting some dorsiflexion drills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unlocking a lot of potential in my squat abilities. And I've been doing front squats now. I'm more of a front squat guy because, because
you're a pitcher, bro.
Of course, you get full rotation of the shoulder. You get, you're in a thoracic extension position.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. But I'm getting deeper and a lot more clean looking squat than I ever have before. So it's amazing, little things like that people don't think about. That goes such a long way. It's also so important for baseball players because you can sink into your glute deeper and maintain heel connection in the mound longer, which produces higher velocities. At least I've found that. When you come up onto your toe and become quad dominant, you lose that posterior chain activation, and that goes a long way. That's something that I've gotten heavily involved in.
Absolutely, man. Do you practice any this is Dr. Aaron Horschick from Squat University 101, but any tripod foot or anything like that?
No, not yet.
I highly suggest to check that out. It's a very simple tool. And again, fix your ankles first. But very simple tool. Dig your big toe on the ground, dig your pinky toe on the ground.